Hi everyone, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. And the post-lunch slot is always an easy one, so let's see how this goes. So welcome. My talk is from pixels to algorithms. I'm Suhrid, I'm a PM at Microsoft. I was also a designer in my past life. Today I want to talk about what it means to be designing experiences in the era of AI. Check. Thanks, Sid. Tell me if this is better. Can you hear me now? Thumbs up? Awesome. So, So, a quick story, guys, first. So, true story. This was a professional who, more than 40 years ago, would wake up in the morning and take an early morning train from Pune to Bombay. And in his briefcase would be what are called punch cards. And he would take these to Bombay and visit a terminal near VT to get his business done. And this was how software was being conducted in the region of Pune 40 years back. I thought it was a very cool story to share, and just keep this in mind as we jump into AI and all the modern stuff in the coming slides. Could I get a timer also here, please? Yeah. So now, my journey is in 3 parts. I'm going to be talking about AI. This is about 60-70% of the talk. We'll learn about AI. We've talked much about it. But this hopefully will give you a little more, more than a surface level understanding of what has exactly happened in the last about 18 months, okay? And then second session, I'll show you some examples and what this means for our industry. And in the last session, we'll all collectively try and make sense of, what to do and where do we go from here. So here's an interesting graph, right? And this is a Google Trends map, and we've all seen these. And so clearly the blue is something that is very much top of mind for people and in discussion. And then there's a bunch of other colored lines below, right? And we all have a general idea of how Google Trends works. And now I'm going to show you another one. And now comes another variable, and the red one blows everything else out of the water, and it is a head and shoulders above everything else. So what are we talking about? These are actually all of the, hyped new technologies that have emerged in the last couple of years, and what you can see is that AI is really, like I said, a head and shoulders above everything else. There's been much talk about all these other techs. They're important, but AI is something else. We are encountering something that we've not seen happen in tech in a long time. But the reality is AI is not new. It's been around for a very long time. In fact, if you're a grad student in the 80s and 90s in the US, you would be advised to not take up AI as a specialization. It was considered a career death move because of the infamous AI winter. But then things improved, and now we are surrounded by AI, whether we know it or not, in many, many different ways, right? And but again, this didn't shake up things as much as this latest wave of AI has. So what has changed? So what changed basically is a combination of 3 key ingredients that came together at the same time. That is big data, big compute, and neural nets, okay? And this might sound technical. The talk is not going to be technical, don't worry. But I will talk a little bit more about what this essentially means and how this sort of caused this whole, epochal moment that we are in right now. So, like I said, AI has been around for a while, and this is an example of quote-unquote regular AI. And what this means is, it was still doing cool things, like, for example, in this slide, it does optical character recognition, it can do handwriting recognition. Here's another example of a bunch of different vision AI services. So if you're in a supermarket, the AI can tell you how long you've been in the store, how much the dynamic distance between 2 people is, remember back to COVID times and social distancing. And this is all super cool, but it did not cause, us to discuss this in UX conferences, right? So what has changed? What changed is basically generative AI, and the 2 images on the left you're very familiar with. I won't show you more fantastic images, generated from simple text prompts. But the one on the extreme right is a powerful one, and this is, let me just play the video first.
Hi there, I'm calling on behalf of Joe, who recently received a new iPhone from Acme Telco, but, oh, got it. When did Joe receive the new iPhone? iPhone was delivered 2 days ago. Cool. Could you share the order number with me?
So this is two LLMs talking to each other, and the most probably profound generative LLM AI development is large language models' ability to synthesize and process language and build a semantic understanding of words, right? And this has huge consequences, obviously, and I'll talk more about that. I do have another example of an AI-generated song, but I'll maybe play that later for time. Now, here is a fun, fascinating story, okay? So about 7 years ago in 2017, a seminal research paper was released which was called Attention is All You Need, right? And this was the world's introduction to the transformer model. And remember I talked about neural nets, so transformer model is basically what all of modern large language models are based on. It was very powerful as a discovery, right? And then two companies, Google and this one small, lesser known startup, you might have heard of it, OpenAI, also decided to take two different views on large language model training. Google said we're going to throw all of big data, but then fine-tune the model for one task. OpenAI said, you know what, let's just try and throw all of the world's information at the models and see what comes out. The latter proved to be the right approach, and that gave OpenAI a head start in the world of, generative AI and large language model development. And since then, Google has also, followed suit. What also happened along the same time is two smart people from Microsoft, the CEO and CTO, also said, hey, you guys, I think we should be friends, and thus formed the most consequential tech partnership of modern times. And among all this, there was another brilliant man who, as they say, was selling shovels in the gold rush, right? So these three teams were having a great time. And what is funny is Google, from where it started, he said, bro, sab kiya to maine, and it is still sort of catching up. And this is just an example of how tech sort of diffuses across companies and is, all kinds of fun stuff. Now, who are these two wonderful people? This is actually Nikki Parmar and Ashish Vaswani, who actually happen to have, they basically belong to Pune. And so this is, again, an example of software engineering not happening in Pune, but done by people who are basically bred out of Pune. So I think we can all be super thrilled about the fact that there's people from Pune behind this whole thing, right? Now, so obviously I'm saying this is consequential, and let's hear it from the man himself, Satya, talking about what he calls the new platform shift.
I distinctly remember my first PDC in 1991, driving up 101 into Moscone Center, and my life changed after that developer conference. So it's exciting to be able to come back to build 2023 with that same sense of anticipation of something big that is shifting around us as developers. We went from the bicycle to the steam engine with the launch of ChatGPT. It was like the mosaic moment for this generation of the AI platform.
So what Satya is talking about, again, the bicycle is a reference to the Steve Jobs analogy of the computer being a bicycle for the mind, and he's saying now with AI, we all have a steam engine at our disposal, right? It's a powerful metaphor for just how much power is packed in this new software. He also talked about the Mosaic browser, which many of you might not remember. It was the first Internet Explorer, like pre-Internet Explorer browser that basically enabled the World Wide Web. So we're at a similar time is what Satya says, and let's try and break down what that exactly means for us as designers, right? So here is a couple of generations of computing and the impact they've had on the interface as well as the design industry in general. First, in the 1990s, you had the introduction of the PC, which led to the birth of the graphical user interface, or GUI, and the impact of this in the profession was that the profession was basically born, right? You used to call interaction design human-computer, interface or interaction design back in 90s, and it wasn't super formal back then, right? But as time passed, we saw the introduction of client-server. Web became a huge deal. We all learned HTML, CSS, at least some of us in the room did. Data size, packets transfer across, TCP became important. You also had the emergence of important UX artifacts like the endless scroll and feed, and basically the design discipline matured and became formalized. Then comes along the big one, which is the mobile revolution. Now we have a third interface in the form of a touch screen. We're all thinking small, thinking in the form of touch areas, mobility, use of sensors, and the fragmentation of needs, right? There's an app for food, there's an app for ride sharing, there's an app for, I don't know, whatever you imagine. And now we are in this fourth situation where this is the Gen AI inflection point, and it's clearly one more platform shift, and the interface, I argue, is no longer anything else but natural language itself. This is our new interface. And what this basically means is that we go from a bunch of fragmentation to now a consolidation and simplification of interfaces, right? The interfaces will become simplified, they'll be multi-sensory and hyper-personalized. And we'll dig into this a bit more in the coming slides. Now, It is a very small tech primer. I think it'll be useful and fun, hopefully. But I'll just walk you through some of the key terms that is now being thrown around in our day. So what are neural networks? This is nothing but a computer designed to mimic the human brain. Like we have connections and synapses in our brain. Neural network just does that via in silicon. And then, like I said, you need a lot of data, so big data, but it is fed to the neural network with a certain approach. And so, for example, the self-attention learning in the transformer model, the seminal paper, that basically is being used to feed data to this neural network. And what comes out the other end? It's an AI model, right? AI models are the products of the modern age, and we should all become familiar with these, right? But you can't use a model in its in this stage. It has to be packaged into a cloud service from where it gets consumed, because it is fed to your workflows and applications. So every time, for example, you're talking to ChatGPT, you are basically pinging the AI service which hosts either GPT 3.5 or 4 or whatever, right? This is like a simple way of how we are all accessing AI. And so it is being made available to developers and teams in this fashion. So this is, for example, Azure OpenAI Studio's model catalog with over 1,600 models. You can see the latest GPT-4o is here, which can do both speech, and imagery. Then you also have models from Meta. You've got small language models like Phi and so forth. So there are models for every different use case, size, cost, combination, etc. So this is fast becoming the vocabulary that we all need to get sort of, used to. And with all this, I would posit that the hype is truly and well justified, because we now have a new AI that is pre-trained, knows a whole lot. So it comes with world knowledge. You can ask it questions. It is multi-skilled. It can do a bunch of tasks, summarization, creative, and text generation, etc. And it is agnostic to language. It can speak both Hindi, Marathi, English, what have you. And the second point is these models are now highly steerable, and they follow your instructions. So all you need to say is, you are a blah assistant. It'll do one thing. You can say something else. It'll do something else. And they operate in the sensory realm, which is that they obviously understand speech. They, are great at language, and they're also increasingly getting better at visuals, both moving images as well as static ones. Last point is that they are becoming very accessible. You and I can use and touch AI like never before. It's becoming, something super accessible. So with this, so ends the theory class. And now let's take a look at what this means for our industry, what's changing. And to do this, I want to share a couple of demos from the India market. There's a bunch of different technologies I'd like us to walk through, but for time, let me just pick a few. Okay, so the first one is conversational interfaces. And to show this, I'm going to just jump out of the deck for a second. Hopefully this should work. I'm sharing sound. Let me go into the browser to one of our customers, Make My Trip, which is already a dominant online travel agent with more than 50% market share. The top 100 million of Indian users are already saturated, right? So they want to go after the next 700 million, which is our house help, folks, everyday people. Now, this is the category of people who have a smartphone, can pay using UPI, understand social media, and are comfortable with their own natural language. And for them, Make My Trip has built in partnership with Microsoft this beta product called the Myra browser. Okay, sorry, the Myra bot. And this is a departure from the conventional ticket booking interface, and I'll try and give you an example. The language is Hindi right now. मुझे पुणे से हैदराबाद की फ्लाइट दिखाइए 3 दिन के बाद.
ये रहे आपकी फ्लाइट के सुझाव.
So it does 3 दिन के बाद, etc. It gives me flights, and I say, सिर्फ इंडिगो की फ्लाइट दिखाइए.
ये रहे आपकी फ्लाइट के सुझाव.
And so instead of going through the whole selection, search process, sort and filter, 15 different clicks, which my, parents are honestly not comfortable with, neither is my, house help and staff, etc. This is going to be the interface of the future, which is much more natural, easy to use. It's in beta stage, but we can clearly imagine this sort of, becoming mainstream in the months and years to come. So there are similar examples that we've had the privilege of working with. So one from the education, where Physics Wala, large, online education provider, has a bot that can answer complicated math, science, educational questions. It can also help students de-stress during time of exam. And then there's Krishi Mitra for farmers, who are able to use an app and point to a picture of a crop and say, isme kya gadbad hai, what should I do, etc. So that's for conversational interfaces. I'll show you a couple more demos. Avatars, you are now able to generate a synthetic version of a human, which can mimic body, actions, gestures, etc. Who knows? Maybe in 3 years, I'll have my avatar do the talk. But this is an example of the avatar in action in an e-commerce setting. I'll just play this very short video. It's in Chinese, but we'll get the idea.
4度倾斜前置摄像头，拍摄角度更自然，其拍摄效果比上一代更清晰明亮，在视频会议上可以更好地展现个人风采。
So basically, this is a innovative camera which points downward by 4 degrees, and so when you're holding the iPad tablet like this, it actually gives you a better view instead of showing a skewed picture, right? And that's what the avatar is explaining. And you can see the potential application of having a interface like this compared to like a bullet list of features to read through, right? So very powerful. And these are all Microsoft products. And so, for example, one last thing, and this is going to be huge, agentic models. So until now, and Biju mentioned this, we have RAG, which is, the models were able to fetch data which from your proprietary store and give you an answer. So if you ping Zomato, you could get answer to a dish, etc. But now you will have agentic models which can also not only give you answers to your questions, but take action. That is the next big moment. And so here's an example of a dummy restaurant website using GPT-4o, which uses both speech and natural language.
Welcome to Contaco. Can I take your order?
Can I get 2 street tacos, 1 chimichanga, and a fountain drink?
Oakley dokley.
Actually, take out the chimichanga. That's too much.
Got it. I've taken out the chimichanga for you. Now your order is 2 street tacos and 1 fountain drink.
I'll get a cinnamon twist also.
So it goes on, but I'll skip the rest. And so again, very powerful. Do you really need the interfaces that you have today? How much will they change because of a tech like this? Good questions to ask ourselves. Another example of a cool innovation that's happening actually right out of Hyderabad in partnership with many of our teams globally, which is video translation. Customers came to us and said, hey, we would like to localize our videos in 1 click. You figure it out for us. So this involved a bunch of different technologies, but the end output is super easy to understand. I'll play the original clip first and then the translated one.
I'm pleased to welcome Tulsi Menon today. She's from our Microsoft engineering team in Hyderabad. She's a group product manager with Azure AI Service. Tulsi, welcome to TGIF.
Hi Sandeep, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about OpenAI today.
Awesome.
So that is English, and both Tulsi is my boss, and both these are South Indians. The Hindi is not particularly great, but let's listen to the dubbed Hindi video.
आज मैं तुलसी मेनन का स्वागत करके बहुत खुश हूं। वो हैदराबाद के हमारे माइक्रोसॉफ्ट इंजीनियरिंग से हैं। वो एज्योर सर्विस में ग्रुप प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर हैं। तुलसी, तुम्हारा स्वागत है।
हाय संदीप, तो धन्यवाद कि तुमने मुझे बुलाया था। मैं चर्चा को लेकर काफी उत्साहित हूं।
So मैं भी इस चर्चा को लेकर काफी उत्साहित हूं, and this is actually the Hindi bit is a nice AI training problem. It's very formal at the moment, and but yes, in 1 click you can basically localize from whichever source to target language. And so again, to summarize, these are just some examples. There's many more kinds of disruption happening, but there is disruption in a wide variety of fields, but this didn't make us, sit up and take notice as much as the changes happening in Gen AI. And the reason is because Gen AI is operating disproportionately in the sensory realm, right? It is able to do things that humans can, and that's pretty, surprising, shocking. And so the consequences of this is that it will not only affect product shape, which means our applications and workflows will change, but also our processes and the tools that we use are also going to be massively different in the years to come, right? So just some things to keep in mind as we go into the last section, and you'll be saying, this is all great, but like, so what do I do, And so again, to collectively think about, how we move into this bright future, I'm going to share some, takeaways and possible, intelligent guesses for where we are going and how we can sort of best prepare ourselves. Now what do we know so far, right? We know that first I want to give out a disclaimer saying that it's okay to feel anxious, overwhelmed. I've had all of these emotions just in this year alone. Technology is changing at a pace and scope that I had never encountered myself, and I'm supposed to know this, right? But nobody's really an expert at this juncture. But again, this change also represents a huge opportunity. We have an opportunity to redefine all of our experiences and products that we work on. Things that just seemed impossible a few months back are now possible. And we're still early, so no need to jump to conclusions, because the App Store moment, which was 3 years later after the iPhone was launched, or example, the Uber of AI has not really, presented itself, so we're still very early in this, right? So here's some intelligent guesses. This slide could age very badly, but I've taken a crack nevertheless of where we might be going, right? What this all means for us. So possible future trends for interfaces is that we might be going from a world where apps and workflows are complex to super simple apps that are highly personalized for you, that are no longer static, that can change based on your needs and moods, and are of course multimodal, right? You can talk to the product or the surface or whatever. You can type it, type and chat with text. You can basically even upload an image and it'll understand. So interfaces are changing. Interfaces are no longer, what we knew them to be. They will be conversational. They will be full of synthetic content. They will have a multimodality, like I said. They will be agentic. They will be able to take actions for you. They will also be, and it might not be a bad thing, screenless. We've seen early examples of this in the Humane Pin, the Rabbit AI, etc. And they might also be robotic. You might have humanoid, zooid robots coming up, and folks in this room could be working on robots in times to come. So the new frontiers of design is all of these areas which are very early in exploration, where we as designers will have to define our relationship with AI. You will have to define its personality. Should the AI be friendly? Should it be tough? Should it be curt? Should it be expansive? And then there will be questions around personalization also to answer, right? And this is a lot to take in, I can understand, but to sort of summarize, here is how we are thinking about it. Even because the products that we are working on are also getting disrupted at a fast pace, so some learnings, which is that anxiety comes from having a solution orientation. Instead, we should suspend that and focus once again on user problems and apply first principles thinking. The problems are not going away anywhere. The problems remain the same. And like Satya says, be a learn-it-all with a growth mindset, and that might just be the best mantra for the future, right? In conclusion, the story I started with is actually a real company based out of Pune. It was started in 1982. And the gentleman I refer to is significantly older now. He's a real person. He's my dad's brother, and he's gone through not one or two, but 5 different computational generational shifts, right? And he's had a fantastic career and enjoyed every moment of it. So I think, just like him, we're going to have a fantastic future ahead. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the amazing things people in this room are going to build. With that, thanks. Yeah.